Welcome to Political Trade Secrets, an inside look at campaigns and politics, where we pull back the curtain, look under the hood, and investigate all aspects of politics and how elections are won. Now, here's your host, Dustin Olson.
And welcome to Political Trade Secrets. Thank you to everybody for joining us here today. I already see people streaming in from across the internet for this really important conversation. We're going to be premiering the beginning of a series where we're going to be talking about revitalizing America's hometowns. This is something that Sean has been big on for some time. And with the pandemic, it's a really important topic as people are migrating from these big cities to these amazing communities across the country. I'm from a rural area. Sean's from a rural area. We really have a heart for these communities, and we're going to be talking with State Senator Andy Zay, one of the winningest state senators in Indiana, and we're going to be talking to him about his efforts to expand broadband internet for rural Indiana. So that's going to be an excellent conversation today. And before that, though, I have our favorite, Ohio's Buckeyes best, Sean Bartley. How you doing today?
Morning. I'm doing well. Glad to be with you. Looking forward to this conversation today. I think it's something that as we look around and see what's going on in across the country, I think this is something that we're seeing a movement towards. Anyway, and it's something that I know you and I have been talking about for a few years. So it's great to see it coming to fruition in a lot of places. And I'm just looking forward to a real great conversation about how it's showing up in the Hoosier State. So
yeah. Well, every state in this country. This is a conversation that conversation and actions that people should be taking in order to ensure that we have vibrant communities where people can raise a family, they can have economic opportunity, they can be a part of the world's economy, as well as raising their family and being able to have world-class education, all those things being available to them. And this conversation around expanding broadband internet is going to be very important to that. Yeah. And when you talk about this, like kind of, this is going to be a series that we're going to be doing ongoingly for, until we actually revitalize every hometown across this country. But tell people a little bit about how this came about for yourself and why you wanted to take this on as a series.
Well, absolutely. Well, as many listeners know and viewers know, I live in a small rural Ohio town. And a few years ago, I started thinking about why I liked living here and how amazing it would be for more people to have the opportunity to live in small and medium-sized towns and not feel like they have to live in these major metropolitan areas. And it's a narrative that I also think we get from not just the media, but I'm sure it might have been this way for you growing up in a small town. It was always, okay, well, what are you going to grow up and where are you going to go to do it? Like, what are you going to do and where are you going to go to do it? And, and so really this is about shifting the conversation, which is, what are you going to do and what are you going to do it here?
Yeah.
And so, when I talk about revitalizing America's hometowns, I see communities where people are connected with each other and they care about what's going on in their neighborhoods and in their neighbors' lives.
Yeah.
And I really see the opportunity to give generations of families the ability to live nearby instead of states away or the closest major city or whatever it is in your neck of the woods, and have the ability to achieve their dreams right there. And so that's what this series really sets out, is to show the opportunities that opportunities really abound anywhere and everywhere, and how political leaders and community leaders can power and empower that movement. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so we hope that this is something that that's of interest to our listeners and viewers. I think it's something that goes right along hand in hand with this idea of reigniting American patriotism.
Yep.
And because this is where, if you can drive down main streets of towns across the Midwest, and what you see are U.S. flags, and you just see a real joy in being able to have a small community where everybody can be together.
Yeah, there's a real love of America through the heartland of this country, and being able to empower people to really live the lives that they want to live there is really what we care about. And people like Senator Zay and others across this country are doing the good work to actually make that possible. So, if you'd like to be part of this conversation anywhere you are, we're on 12 different platforms right now. You can post a comment, a question, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Twitter, you're on Periscope, you're on one of the Facebook pages. Please do post a comment or question, join the conversation. Maybe you have questions about how to do this in your area. Maybe you have ideas for how you can revitalize your hometown. Whatever it is, join the conversation. We really do appreciate it. Already seen a number of good mornings coming in, so thank you very much for that. And this is going to be a fun conversation. Another way you can also be a part of the conversation is by texting me personally at 202-918-3345. Again, that's 202-918-3345. And you can be a part of our texting community. It's a great way to get the freshest political trade secrets. We send out a couple texts a day. We get people's thoughts on the upcoming episodes, what questions you have. We send out resources. Yesterday, I sent out some polling information after the show and a Heritage Foundation fact sheet on a couple of different items. So if you want those kinds of resources, please do text me at 202-918-3345 to be a part of that community. You can also go to our website, politicaltradesecrets.com, and you can sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets Insider, get exclusive stuff. We're going to be sending out a book here shortly to our community there, but you'll get regular contact with a lot of great resources, tips, and whatnot to help you. But we're here to empower conservatives across this country to really be the most effective citizens that they can be, and also to be the powerful political leaders that their community, their state, and our country need in order to reignite American patriotism. So there are many other opportunities for how you can take that leadership to the next level. And Sean, would you like to tell people how they can do that?
Absolutely. Are you thinking about running for office, or you want to see how you can be the best political leader you can be for your community, your state, the country, or even the world? Reach out to us at olsonstrategies.com. It's OLSON strategies.com. You can email me at Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com. And we would love to have that conversation with you today. And then we're also proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. What do? Canvassing, petitioning, live calling. You get one shot to make a first impression. Make it count with Grassfire. Nobody does it better in the business. That interaction, and really deliver it for you, your campaign, your issue, and deliver it in a meaningful way that's positive and impactful. So it's www.grassfire.us. And then they also fuel 10centtexting.com. This is your way to connect with your constituents, your voters, right where they are on their mobile device. Image, GIF, short video, right there in the body of the text message. Don't miss your opportunity to connect and have impactful interactions with your residents, your citizens, your constituents, right where they are. So 10centtexting.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Sean. And it's really interesting. We're having more and more local officials talking to 10centtexting.com about getting the right information regarding vaccines to the people so that they can actually get scheduled. It's really making a difference. And thank you to everybody who's stepping up in their leadership to be able to help with that endeavor. It's really amazing. We've talked about Operation Warp Speed and how President Trump really did a moonshot by making that happen within the year. It's one of the great stories of America. And with that, Sean, if you'd like to set up this conversation, tell people a little about who Senator Zay is. He is, I think, in his last election, he had the largest margin of victory across the state of Indiana because he worked so hard to make sure that he had a really solid success there, and really brought in a lot of people into his campaign and to support his vision for the Hoosier state.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and he's one of the hardest working people in the Indiana State Senate, where he served since 2016. He also chairs the Insurance and Finance Committee. So, as somebody in the who's been there a term and a half. That's a pretty quick movement there. So it really goes to his leadership and ability. He represents Northeast Indiana, Wabash, Huntington, Grant, and Whitley counties for folks that are familiar with that area. He also coaches youth sports and is active in junior achievement of Northern Indiana. And he's a small business owner. He owns leasing and rentals in Huntington, where he resides with his wife, Cindy. And they are parents to 5 kids. So he keeps busy on every front. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Indiana State Senator Andy Zay.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to move on with the show. But I'm going to do one real quick
Yes.
plug. Next week on Tuesday, we're going to be having Jason Meath, who is wrote this book, Hollywood on the Potomac. He's a longtime media consultant. He told me when he did this book, it's a bunch of pictures of various Hollywood folks and how they meet up with politicians in Washington. But that's, of course, JFK. Jason's a Republican, but the book publisher said if you want to sell books, you put the Kennedys on the front. And that's why that's how that happened. But he was going to either do that or the Elvis and Nixon picture when he did that. So anyway, that's going to be coming up on Tuesday. Hope people join us for that. It'll be a fun conversation and talk about, he has the Biden documentary that he's had out on Newsmax for a while, which has been interesting. I've watched it like 5 times because it's on every single time I'm on Newsmax. But anyway, we're going from America's hometowns, and we'll be going to Hollywood on the Potomac. But it's, we have a lot of great guests on this program, and we really do appreciate that. So with that, on with the show. Senator Andy Zay, welcome.
Good morning. Great to be with you guys. I mean, couldn't have a sharper contrast to next week. You're going from Main Street to Hollywood. So
that's right.
Real happy and proud to represent Main Street, and just thrilled to be with you guys today. What an honor.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us and the leadership that you've been showing in Indiana, particularly around this topic that we were talking about right before you came on, which is this idea of revitalizing America's hometowns. And before we get into a little bit more of that, what had you get into politics? Like what had you step up?
Well, politics. I never woke up one morning and said, "Hey, I want to be a politician." Right? But as you grow up in small town America, politics, gets into your veins, gets into your body. Initially, as a small business owner, whether it's working for local candidates and zoning issues and different things that you're trying to do and accomplish. School board is another very local issue that is very important. You definitely follow those things, and as a family, we discussed them a lot on the Sunday evening meals growing up. And given the opportunity as times moved on, and the caucus that you helped with a little bit, I just felt I was the right person at the right time for the right position. And the viewpoints that I share, and a small business owner, a small town, folk growing up, and family man, I just thought it was a good representation, both of the district and for the state of Indiana. Yeah,
and so for those who don't know, so you started in the state senate was the first elected position you held, as I understand. What is it about the state legislature and state politics that has such an impact on people's lives? Maybe some things they don't even realize.
Well, I did serve a little bit at the township level, but then ascended to the Senate seat. And it's, you're talking, it's kind of nice because you're talking about some visionary things. You're trying to stay 2 steps ahead of the country, of the state. You're trying to keep Indiana at the top of some stat boards, which we've done very well economically, tax-wise, and some of those other things. And I've been very impressed with the leadership that honestly came before me, and really setting a foundation for some of those things. So it really feels incumbent upon me to keep those structural things in place and find the next area, arena that we can excel and really set Indiana apart from the other 50 states. 40
that's a great point. I think you're really kind of set that out there. What is it? so some of the people that are listening haven't been in and don't live in Northeast Indiana. Paint the picture for them of as to what the communities of your district look like and what really matters to families and businesses in the 17th district.
Well, those that don't live here just don't know what they're missing out on. It's just a great, great slice of Americana. And I say that somewhat facetiously, but I believe that to the core. And it's just, I believe that the district that I represents the best of Indiana, and honestly, the best of America. Its neighbors still watching out for each other. It's hometown community festivals. It really is the old Chevrolet commercial. It's apple pie and the local little leagues and baseballs. Leagues. Of course, now the whole state is relishing in this basketball environment, both with our state high school basketball tournament coming on, as well as welcoming the country and the world to Indiana for the big dance.
Yeah.
Well, I just real quick, Sean, we just, one of our viewers pointed out we have 92 shares, which is pretty fast in a short time. A lot of people are liking this conversation. So I want to encourage people, if you'd like to share the program and get this kind of conversation to your local area so people can actually, follow in Senator Zay's lead and to really be a leader for rural America. Please do that. But thank you to everybody who's already shared 92 times this program. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate you pointing out that Indiana right now, today, is where sports fans are focusing on when it comes to college basketball and what's going on there. And it really goes to something that really a vision that the state has set up for since the movie Hoosiers came out, and even before. This is, it's just the quintessential middle American story, and that it can be the host. I mean, what does it feel like as far as seeing that come to fruition and having basically the whole tournament being there and
it feels it's exciting, but it is a little bit closed off. They're keeping all the players and teams in a bubble, limited attendance and all that. But I refuse to let that get me down. We'll be watching games. I'm intimately engaged because my son is. They're not playing basketball anymore in high school, but we had a great high school experience with him playing ball. So, as a family, it's kept us intimately engaged in the game and the excitement of the games. And he had tremendous success as a freshman, so we're very excited about that. My older son actually works for the basketball program over at Purdue, so obviously exciting year for them. They have to carry the whole mantle for the state this year. Unfortunately, they're the only. We bring the doggone tournament to the state, and they're the only team in it this year from the state. Unlike many years past, but. It's just there's an excitement. It's obviously a part of every conversation, in a little bit, or a gateway to some of our more serious discussions. But it's just something. It's like May, right, when the race cars get going. It's something that really gets us in Indiana, kind of gets us from winter to spring and on into summer, and it's very exciting. It's very exciting. Downtown Indy is spruced up. They've done their job. Fortunately, it was a little bit of a struggle in the last year, but they've really put their best foot forward. So just being down at the Capitol and around the Capitol has been a nice presence of March Madness. With you've probably seen the JW Marriott down there. They got the brackets on the side of the hotel going up however many feet. And I heard a rumor they're going to update it, so they're actually going to move the bracket. I don't know about going to do that. That would be a scary job, but hey, we're all about jobs here in Indiana, so somebody's got to do it. That's awesome.
Well, I really appreciate it. And a couple of times you've mentioned vision, and that really is part of who you are as a political leader, and really political leaders in general. You have to bring some vision. So, just imagining years from now when you're done with your public service and you look back on your career, what do you see is going to now be possible, and what's going to have happened because you served, and what does Northeast Indiana look like? What's possible for families there because you served? What's your vision fulfilled for that region?
Well, it's simple Americana to me, and that is simply to leave it better for the kids than I've had it. And from a legislator standpoint, from a public official standpoint, it's putting together foundational stuff. It's keeping the foundational stuff that's positive in place now. And I think when I'm in my swan song, my elder years, I want to look back, and hopefully my kids and grandkids have great opportunities right here in our backyard. They're not running across the country looking for that opportunity, which really is a lot of what we're going to be talking about here in a moment.
Yeah, that's a great lead in, because one of the things that this series is really all about is how do we create those opportunities and have people realize the opportunities in small and medium-sized cities and towns across this country. And how do we really create the opportunities and where things can set up to be there for generations to be able to live near each other. So that's really this whole idea of revitalizing America's hometowns. What you just shared, and really setting that up so that people can see that. And really looking at how you've stepped up. One of the topics that we see in being able to revitalize America's hometowns is people having access to reliable internet, and so you've really stepped up as a leader in rural broadband. So as you look at what policies would make a difference for districts like yours, how does expanding access to quality internet through rural broadband fit that bill?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, it's, to me, the expansion of broadband and connectivity is critical, really, in all fronts, but it's critical from the economic development standpoint. And why I say that is I believe the state that does the best job with that is going to have a distinct economic development advantage going forward. What does that mean? That means people are going to want to play, pray, stay, and live here in Indiana. And that's the environment we want to create. That's the environment we create in jobs. That's the environment we create in a place of quality of place, I should say. And even as we talk about the basketball environment now, even in our sports and our sports opportunities here in Indiana. So, foundationally, to look back, this isn't a new discussion. I'm actually kind of late to the game on this. There was a comprehensive study committee with Lieutenant Governor Sue Ellersperman that looked at this in Indiana back in 2014. And what I learned in looking at that and, myself getting involved, we were asking the same questions and doing the same things. And so we really weren't moving the needle. We weren't moving the ball forward. And I think we owe a lot of credit in this tone of broadband and connectivity to the ag community, because so much has changed in agriculture now. The high tech of the combines and the tractors and the application of their fertilizers and how they're managing their crops and fields, as well as the animal industry, that they've been screaming for this for years. But with the onset of the pandemic last year, it brought in education when we sent all our kids home, and instead of e-learning, we were doing virtual learning basically in all our schools. Telehealth exploded with our health community and serving the elderly and really serving anybody. And then, of course, our business, large business, small business, where folks were actually attempting, if they could, to work from home and do the remote business. And so you're going to see an altering in that landscape. And the opportunity to meet that landscape is in extending this broadband and connectivity, in many cases, to places where it just simply is not, and where it hasn't been. So that's where I've tried to move the needle, and I've tried to put a creative approach to it, create an awesome foundation that we can wrap our arms around and just spring Indiana forward in this domain.
Yeah, one thing that I don't think people get, and I really appreciated you leading with it, is that the ag community really is a high-tech industry. It is not a low-tech thing anymore. And talk a little bit about how they've been leading the way, not just on this issue, but really expanding how technology works to have us fed.
Well, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I could go on and on about it, but those that have driven through the heartland of America, when you look down a field, one end of the field to the other end of the field, they are measuring production year in and year out. They're knowing exactly what kind of seed to put in that corner of a field. And they know exactly what kind of fertilizer to put in one corner of a field versus another corner. And it helps them both mitigate their risk with crop insurance and those sort of things, but also maximize their production. And that's why, and I think about every case, I don't have the data right in front of me, but we're producing more corn on less acreage now. We're producing more soybeans on less acreage. So that just screams to the technology of what, here in Indiana, Purdue, and many of our other ag schools throughout the country are working at producing these efficiencies through a lot of technology. It's also coming right into, like I said, the tractors and the combines and what they're able to, how they're able to harvest, how they're able to plant and manage those crops throughout the year. And that's just in that sector. When you look at the animal sector in the larger animal operations, they're getting just the right amount of feed. And what it's really providing for us that we almost take for granted anymore, wherever you shop for your food, you're getting a consistency in that ham, in that bacon, in that steak, and the chicken, the products that we like to consume. It's very similar each time. And that's because they're able to animals with a certain diet and take them to a slaughter at just the right time. And it's just amazing to have visited some of these operations and watch how they work. But that simply wouldn't be possible without the technology to monitor the amount of food, feed, and whatever that they're giving them.
Well,
it's really made a difference in the pandemic. I mean, it's amazing. From the beginning of the pandemic to now, we have had all the food that we would need. Everybody along the way. For our family, every night at dinner, we thank God not just for the food, but for every hand that participated in bringing it along the way, from the farmer and the rancher all the way through. It's really remarkable. These are American heroes who are providing this service for all of us, and not just this country, but the entire world. In the use of drones and GPS and all these things, there's a certain arrogance that people in the cities have. They don't realize that this is probably one of the highest tech sectors out there, and it's pretty remarkable.
But the interesting part about that, there's actually a little bit of a pendulum backswing to the smaller meat markets and the farmers markets, which we're seeing on a lot of town squares and in a lot of places now. And it's a little different element of technology, but in the same vein, the same thing. And so, on one hand, you get the mass production, and you're also getting the more intimate, wholesome production that people are enjoying. And it's just phenomenal and just absolutely exciting to see it work and how the folks are working those industries.
Well, that's a great point, because we're still seeing, and I think you're particularly seeing that in some of the smaller and medium-sized towns where people say, hey, I still want to have a connection with who's producing my food. And so they actually prefer to go and actually have a conversation with whoever grew their vegetables or whatever, and have that conversation. And you mentioned the smaller markets are seeing a bounce back as well. On this idea, though, of expanding the high speed internet, one of the things that you mentioned is that the pandemic really did expose an additional need for it. And how has that driven kind of folks in Indianapolis seeing a need for what you've been talking about and what you are talking about now?
Well, there's a couple schools of thought there. First of all, we did have a program which we were helping subsidize, kind of the last connection. If you think back to rural electrification, a lot of that support was going to our REMCs. It was entitled the Next Level Broadband Grants. And so the governor and his team, through our Office of Community and Rural Affairs, would offer grants to, in a lot of cases, REMCs or possibly some smaller providers that were connecting out in the rural parts. And that's a good program, and I, in my plan, I advocate for continuing that, because there's still demand and need to do that. One of the drawbacks of that program is you're building out without necessarily the commitment of people to connect. Some may already have some sort of service, some may not want it. Maybe they're not getting the speed they want, whatever the case. But the other part, and what's kind of unique to my plan, is we are also partnering with current infrastructure providers that have infrastructure in the ground and kind of spider webbing out from that, where the state will subsidize a few dollars to go maybe a mile out from existing infrastructure to help with that build cost, but bring people under the fold. But why that's important is we think the implementation of that can be much quicker as well, because you already have existing infrastructure. So yes, it's extending it. But when you think about building out a whole network and many miles of network that some of the other programs are, you're talking about years of engineering, mapping out, and doing all that. So that's the other. And then the final bucket, I have like these 3 buckets that I use. The final bucket is adoption, and that's for folks that have broadband at their door, but maybe have an affordability problem. And a lot of the providers have programs for that, but this may help with the last dollar in that. And that's particularly critical, I would say, with 2 groups. First of all, the education group for families, and which we have about 600,000 kids in Indiana that are on free and reduced lunch. So we're making sure we're getting them access to their devices at home to do their homework, learning, virtual learning. And I think it's particularly critical for some of our elderly poverty, where they can get their telehealth visits. Instead of you or I having to take a day off work to go get mom or dad to the doctor's appointment or a loved one, we can maybe do that once, but have the follow-up visit be through that telehealth experience. And in many cases, we're in pretty good shape. It's just checking in and making sure that they're taking the meds and that they're healing or whatever they need in the right way. And I think that can save a lot of productivity, a lot of man and women hours in work, and also keep our elderly population connected to the doctors that they need to see.
On the education front, what's happening exactly in Indiana right now? Like in your area, I imagine initially it was at home learning, e-learning, but what's going on now for families?
Well, last year at this time was a complete scramble. I think it was for the entire country. I mean, all our schools basically went virtual. Coming back in August, most all our schools were back in school with all the COVID restrictions. The school set up some protections, some plexiglass, keep teachers separate from the students. The contact tracing had changed a little bit. The social distancing had changed from 6 to 3 feet. So it's evolved. But almost all the schools in my district have been in person, going at it full time. A lot of the sports have been back in place, limited attendance, a little like we're seeing now with the basketball tournament. So it's been fairly normal. It's still been a different year. And a lot of them still are doing around the holidays, at Thanksgiving, Christmas. Some of them did a week off, kind of give families that breather. So there was a virtual week there. And then kids are still doing the hybrid sometimes if they are home on a quarantine, doing the virtual study as well as those that are in school. So it hasn't been a normal year by any stretch. We are fully prepared for a reduction in learning this year that we're going to need to bounce back from. There's actually some we're looking at some funding for summer schools and extended resource opportunities. So it'll take, I've heard anywhere from a year to 3 years to kind of recover from the last 15 months. But for the most part, it has been an experience, a decent experience, certainly not the norm. But I am excited, and I've challenged my schools, I've challenged my communities to plan for graduations, proms, community festivals. So we're all looking forward. The numbers are tracking wonderful in Indiana right now. The vaccine rate's way up, and the infection numbers, hospitalization numbers are really at all-time lows since we've ever been managing the numbers. So it's been good, and they've learned to use technology. I'm still a little skeptical. I think I'm afraid we've gone too far in some cases with the technology. And I'm actually working with a gentleman that is introducing programs to schools now. He's been in 42 counties, and his motto is teaching kids how to use technology instead of having technology use the kids. And so it's really challenging them to utilize that technology, be entrepreneurs, and use it as a tool, not a toy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I kind of look at this whole thing here and what your bill sets out to do. What is possible with the passage of this legislation for Hoosiers?
well, what's crazy is the federal money that's flying around. And that's really what brought me into it. When we were in the COVID experience last year and the CARES Act money were flying around, I was appealing to the governor and his team to try and get money to Northeast Indiana to make a significant investment in broadband starting last year. And 28 other states actually had done it at the time. And, we had some other priorities that we simply didn't do. So I was challenged by a colleague to file legislation. So my, kind of gravitated from that into working on legislation in October and November, which is where we crafted the idea of these 3 buckets and creating that framework. And then working with the chairman of both the Senate and the House Utilities Committee, we're putting some accountability measures in there to make sure the money is invested at the right spot, because we want to have a big impact and we want to make a difference. And if there's a little more, what should we say, fewer strings attached to this next money, we really think we can make a huge step instead of just moving the needle with broadband in Indiana. And as for me and rural Indiana, that's my commitment, because I think when people are coming here, I mean, we're looking at California, New York, still fighting to be, get out of the shutdown, and Chicago, our neighbors here. The first thing they're looking to check is the box of connectivity. Can I access the web? And I think, in some parts we've kind of been discriminated against that in rural Indiana, and which has made a lot of drift to our metropolitan areas. Initially it was all about Starbucks, and then it's all about being connected. So we need to, have our coffee shops and have our connectivity anywhere we want in the state of Indiana. And I think people will gravitate back out towards a simpler life, as well as being able to do their work from their den, their home, their barn. And not only that, I think it'll be an entrepreneurial revival that we'll also see.
Absolutely.
As a small business owner, what do you think really needs to be done beyond the expansion of broadband? What else are some of the levers that you can pull to really build economic opportunities for small businesses, entrepreneurs throughout your district in rural Indiana?
Well, I think broadband is, mission one, and because that creates entrepreneurs in every garage, den, and barn in the state. And beyond that is simply a vision and a commitment. Are we going to have leadership that's committed to doing that? And if you do, I think you begin to see it, an entrepreneurial environment where you see small businesses creeping up. And of course, we know every large business in this country, every large business in our state came from somewhere. And in many cases, it came out of that college dorm room, that garage, the den, or the barn. And I simply think it's an attitude. And the attitude is part of a vision. We get caught in these traditional cycles of how you bring business and how you create business in your state. And we have some great partners. We have some very awesome larger businesses that are doing great things and setting their roots down in Indiana. And I don't mean to take a thing away from those folks, but I think there's this organic rising with small business and entrepreneurship. We've got to plant that seed in the kids' minds. We've got to water that and watch it flourish. And I believe that's the future of Indiana, and that's one that I'm advocating for.
Cool.
Spot on. I think that is one of the things we're definitely seeing. And you kind of hit on this earlier. Have you seen, we've seen people fleeing states like you mentioned, like New York and California, because they've chosen to go about this pandemic differently. And we're seeing people flee big cities as well, like the biggest of the big cities. Have you seen people moving into your district? Have you seen some growth there? What are you seeing locally?
Honestly, we've seen it for years. I mean, I can point to different addresses in town with folks that have moved here. Most of them are, I don't know, I guess I hesitate to say this, but most of them are kind of doing it in retirement, or maybe after they're working and they're taking simple work. But there's many that are reinvesting in our community, and then some that are coming and re-participating in the workforce. But just on the cost of living here in Indiana, when you talk about moving from a California or New York to Huntington, Indiana, of all places, they can buy 2, 3, 4 times the house. They can't find the house and the equity they might have had in those other places. And they're absolutely dumbfounded about the cost of living. I mean, what would be a $200,000 or $300,000 house, around here is millions in some of those, high states. And so they're really coming here. They're enjoying the living. And as long as we step up and do our job as citizens and are the welcoming Hoosiers that we can be, it's been just a phenomenal experience in more cases than not.
That is, I just love that, and I think you're right on, and we're seeing it here. As you know, I live in the neighboring state, and we're seeing it in some of our small towns as well. So it's great to hear that. I want to shift a little bit to, you had a part of your service has been focused on expanding what it means to be pro-life, and subsequently, Indiana's become one of the most pro-life states in the country. What efforts have you made to shine a light on issues like ending human trafficking and tackling drug addiction, in addition to stopping abortion?
Well, life's kind of an easy issue for me, because if we can't stand behind that, there's nothing else worth doing, in my opinion, including the long conversation we've had about broadband and many other things. It's really that simple. And you're getting back to the definition of life. It's kind of astounding to me, some of the national and political debates on that. We can't resolve on what the definition of life is and when conception is. I just find that very troubling. And all this transgender talk, and we're getting down to 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids. And I've raised 5 kids. My baby's 15 now. If you can get them in line and get them to school, that's a pretty big deal. Much less sorting out what gender I am. It's unbelievable that we're having these discussions at that level. I get it. I get there's different things going on in people and how they identify it. It seems like an adult thing to me that I would certainly love to kind of keep at that level. But that kind of crosses over into the life thing, in my opinion. We simply have got to create opportunity for this next generation and give them the opportunity to exceed and develop and be who they are. And the unfortunate side, as you mentioned, is we have had creep into our country in the last many years, this opioid and drug crisis. And it's terrible. It's the worst of who we are as a country and who we are as neighbors. But in the same vein, we've seen some people step up and do just awesome things. There's a gentleman from down the street, Nathan, who's done some awesome work on that. Shane Beal, a friend of mine down in Grant County, are starting kind of these halfway houses and kind of cleaning people up, drying them up, and getting them just back together and getting them jobs and reconnecting them with their families. And that's the bright side of all this. And we're starting to see some legal pushback where some of the drug companies have been held accountable. Some of the health systems and doctors have been held accountable for overprescribing of these opioids. We were making great strides on the border and shutting off some of the pipelines coming from down south. I'm very concerned about the conversation there, both in the human side and in the what is or may become of the drug side of that. It's a tough issue. It is. It's a tough issue, but it's kind of about, again, creating opportunity, creating that Main Street environment and that hometown environment that that's they're not choosing drugs. They're not choosing that dark side of life. But that's where we got to make sure that we're speaking positively and directing these kids in the idea of opportunity. And when we limit that and limit their ability to create their own dreams and create their own vision, is where they're finding their way into these dark paths. And unfortunately, in many cases, it's people they know, it's their parents, it's an aunt, it's an uncle, it's a peer that they've connected, has taken them down a dark path. And I've tried to be very sympathetic to that, and tried to create opportunity where we can build that bridge and help them out of their dark place into a more normal place. And if we can do that in the long run, many times that saves us money. You talk about incarceration and the repeat where they end up over and over again in jail or prison. So there's been some success there, and in general, I feel like we are on the right trajectory. I don't think this isolation and shutdown of the last year has helped. We've seen suicides peaking. We have seen, I think, a little bit of increase in samosas and drug people participating in drugs and some of the again. And that's been actually a drum that I've been beating with the governor to open things up more quickly. Hey, we're humans. This is what it's all about. Unfortunately, we're on Zoom. I'd love to be in the same room with you guys drinking coffee, but
do you think before the pandemic that the tide was beginning to turn on this?
I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there was a lot of support. I think communities were really coming around with some of these ideas of these halfway houses and helping out. I've seen a ton of creativity in prosecuting and probation and judges with family courts, drug courts, veteran courts, which are a little different than just regular going in front of a judge and getting sentenced. They're kind of probationary, where you have to go through programs before they release you. Had a beautiful ceremony at a veterans court right up the road in Whitley County in Columbia City. Gosh, the gentleman was just a stand-up gentleman that had got addicted and had been separated kind of from his family, and he was graduating and had a beautiful ceremony and reconnected with his wife. His leadership in the military was there from up in 122nd, and those are things you celebrate. Those are great things. So.
Well, that is a moving story, and I think it really goes to the leadership that you in particular were showing on this issue. But how do you think those programs have helped with all the new stresses that have shown up during the pandemic, like actually having a few structures in place that were created?
Right, and I think that's right to the point is, we've created some foundational pieces, some structures that we're more able to get people into now, and that's what's helped. And even with a little spike now, hopefully we'll be able to come out more quickly and help some of that more quickly. But it's a difficult area, because even some of the policies that have been developed in and around some of the addiction areas, it's kind of like, I'm not sure I agree with that. There's some things that are a little edgy that aren't exactly I identify with. And so, it's not an exact science. It's the human condition. The choices we make are difficult to change and adapt to. And but I think there's a lot of help out there, and I think the mindset is right on point. And that's what kind of concerns me about some of this prosecuting going on. I know there's a big deal in LA right now. We've seen some of that down in Indianapolis, where they're kind of arresting and releasing. It's like, it's amazing to me, because legislatively and through the law, we've created tons of programs to create these bridges to help and wellness. So it's not that we're just locking people, a little bit of marijuana, different things like that. There are all kinds of programs to give these people diversion, expunge records, and get them back in the workplace, and or to help them if it's an addiction or some other problem. In cases, it's better for them to be in the system than to be bounced right back to the street.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think I hear from judges when I'm talking with judges that they get letters saying, one of the best things that ever happened to me was actually being in jail for a little bit to get like, hey, this is what the future looks like if I continue this way. And giving people access to that. So I really want to acknowledge you for that. What else have you been working on this session? Like, so we talked about broadband. What else is going on?
Well, Indiana as a state has been trying to tackle the healthcare issue a little bit, and it's been a year-to-year thing where last year we got pretty aggressive in it before we got out. Didn't get, there were some issues we didn't get complete. So I've been through the middle of this what's called pharmacy benefit managers, trying to affect drug costs. And so we're trying to create some transparency around that. I don't know that it'll lead directly to reducing drug costs, but at least will expose a light on an area where consumers can hopefully be a little more discriminating in the cost, and be able to maybe cost shop there a little bit better. And it's a step. We'll have to see what happens after we get this implemented, what might or might not be. But man, you talk about a functional area. Health insurance is just crazy with the federal plan sitting weighing down over the top, the Medicaid, Medicare costs that responsible for managing at the state level, and the effect of how we can drive that down to Main Street, as I say. And but the unfortunate thing, and what you're really seeing with these increased deductibles, the cost of it's really falling on middle and lower class. We are the ones funding this huge increase in healthcare costs. So we simply got to keep peeling back that onion and find a better way. And, I hope at some point we can have a broader conversation and bring the stakeholders to the table and come up with some solutions, because I believe we have just brilliant folks in Indiana that can do it. I mean, we have one of the most successful drug companies in the world, Eli Lilly, and some great health systems with IU Health and Riley, and up here in North Indiana, Parkview and Lutheran, and IU Health is also up here. I mean, these folks are geniuses, and they're doing the job. But how can we get that savings down to Main Street? Because it's real, and it's becoming more and more real on small business, on educators, on even big business. It's becoming a huge part of negotiating contracts, even at big plants like we have up the road in General Motors, because that is eating up more and more of our consumable income.
Yeah.
Well, and with Eli Lilly, you and the rest of the Hoosier State produced Alex Azar as Secretary of Health and Human Services, who oversaw the Operation Warp Speed. And there is a lot of leadership in the Trump administration from the state of Indiana, of course, Vice President Pence as well. Is a good feeder system. One of the things I really appreciate about your leadership, it's very thoughtful. And you've also been able to bring conservative principles to really compassionate issues. And one of the things I've been interested in watching your career is that you have a real heart for the foster care system and reforming that and getting kids back into their families. And I just wanted to hear what's going on in that right now, and what have you seen? Is there more to do? But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I commented on life a little bit ago, and when I came into the legislature, one of the biggest things we faced right off the bat is we had record numbers in our DCS program. I think there were over 29,000 kids that were titled wards of the state. It was up exponentially. I mean, prior to that, a few years prior to me coming in, it was in the teens, which is still a ton. And it was just difficult for me to walk by the issue without getting engaged and not getting involved and looking for best practices, a better way of, and just interjecting, my opinion and different ideas in that arena. And with all credit to Director Stigdon, who's done a nice job. We have driven our kids down in the teens. We're looking for it to come back a little bit once we open up out of this. There's likely been some hidden abuses that will come up, but we've just got to do better. I mean, these are the least of Hoosiers, and that's a very biblical statement, right? Because we've got to take care of the least of those, and that's really the best of who we are, is how we handle that. And I think we're trying to do a better job. For my part, I created a program called the Care Portal, which has been we've got it implemented in 3 counties now. But the thing that I really love about the Care Portal is it takes the state so far. I think the state is the intervener, but where we always come up short as a state is in providing that service, providing that stability for these families or for these kids. And the Care Portal uses the not-for-profit sector and the faith sector to create that balance. So if there's a need out there, it gives the case manager from DCS an opportunity to push that out to a portal. And if these churches are signed up with the portal, they can meet that need and ideally keep the family together, and beyond that, create a mentoring support. And that's something I would like to continue to see grow. And I think it can grow to a point of where it can completely change how we spread and hand out social services in the state of Indiana. Because right now we're kind of using it on DCS, but man, it could be a great support to schools, it could be a great support to our elderly, our poor community, and just reconnecting the church with the services that they provide so well. They put the human touch to it, they put the care to it, the mentoring to it, which doesn't even speak to the value, because to have case managers do that is tens of thousands of dollars, and with mixed results. And I'm not saying, obviously there are good folks doing it, but I have great hopes for that Care Portal and re-engaging a community in that system, where I think it can be a huge difference maker. And the accountability is so awesome, because as soon as they provide it, you can see how many, what the value of the service was, how many kids have served. I mean, I can go on right now, and the Orphan Project is kind of the manager of that, and it'll tell you exactly how many kids were served in Indiana and what the value of that service is. And we're up to about 1,000 kids and over $1 million saved to the state. And so as we begin to roll that out, you'll see that grow exponentially. And it really has it for the whole country. So it's a phenomenal program, I think, that kind of parallels that. This year, I sponsored a program called Kids First Trust Fund, where we can create a support system and a not-for-profit where they can get folks from throughout the country that will donate to this program and create kind of a supporting not-for-profit that will support family wellness and family welfare here in Indiana. So you think of prevention programs, possibly even supporting expansion of programs like the Care Portal. So I'm very excited about that too. And it puts the church, it puts the human people in the right place, and kind of puts our agency in the right place, where we're the kind of the implementer, the intervener, but puts the resource providers in the right place. And I have high hopes for that.
Really caring organizations, the ones that are going to be able to provide that love and care for those kids.
Yeah, perfectly stated.
And what I love about this as an idea, and it really gets to what we as conservatives believe, is that so often we hear, how can I help? And people don't even know. Here is a system that really creates that connection, and it ends up saving taxpayer dollars. And it's not a surprise. People are getting more of the services they need at a less of a cost to the government. It's really what conservative governance is all about.
You're exactly right, and I hate to overplay that, because honestly, we're saving families and saving kids' lives, and that's even more critical. Which again saves more money, because you're getting them in a better place where they can get the education and fulfill the opportunity that's available here in Indiana, and let them prosper and just be great citizens.
Oh, that is so great. And, one of the things that we're really fascinated about is how elected officials bring their life experiences into their service. And we've talked about sports on and off in this episode today. How has your experience as a coach been valuable in public office?
That's a great question. I mean, I look at everything I do kind of from a coach's vantage point, and it's exciting. I run my team, my legislative team. We're very much a team. I try and engage my intern in LA in the experience. They're not going to be with me forever, but they've got to understand the issues as well as I do, because they keep me guided. They're providing me with resources constantly. And if they're not thriving, I'm not thriving. So I work very hard to engage my team in that. I try and keep a very light atmosphere in my office suite. With all our support staff, and that's been fun. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing. I mean, that's really a mantra of my family, but that's certainly a mantra for myself. And I think it's easy to get beat up in this business. We are constantly, and that's fine. That's fair. That's the way this democratic process works. But it's just such an honor to serve beside so many just quality individuals, men and women of all race and ages, and it's just such an honor. And everybody really, for the most part, brings their best foot forward to do the best I can, and I'm just humbled to be a part of that, and relish in that. And we pray, we play, we work together, and I just that's kind of where maybe the charisma. That's just kind of what I try to bring to the floor, and have a good time, and but be impactful. I'm not down there just to be a senator. If it were about the title, I wouldn't do the job. I'm down there to make a difference.
Yeah, and well, I really appreciate that, and it really shows. I think for your constituents and for your fellow senators, I think they really get to see that side of you in interacting, and you mentioned your work with your staff members as well. I think it really all translates, and it is something that is so important for folks to bring into their service. A little bit of what it is, their experiences. It's some of the reasons why people elected you, mm-hmm. and then really standing in what we've been talking about today, which is really what's at the heart of the people of your district. So we really do appreciate that. And is there anything as we're wrapping up the hour here, is there anything that you want to make sure that the people know about? Really anything that you want to share as we're wrapping up?
Well, what came to mind as we're wrapping up here is I heard a little blog from one of my mentors, Matthew Kelly. He's a great Catholic speaker, and I've heard him speak and have met him personally a number of times. But it's so relevant to right now. We've spent 12 years in this country, and maybe or 12 months in this country, and throughout the world, maybe surviving. And what I'm trying to do is challenge everybody. It's time to thrive. So let's stop surviving and start thriving. Let's start looking for what's next and how we're going to be the best version of ourselves, how we're going to be a better family member, how we're going to be better in our community, how our businesses are going to be better. And for my part, how Indiana is going to come out of this on top. And it may sound a little cheesy, but I'm hoping we can bounce this basketball right into a great spring and summer here in Indiana, and that's how we're going to thrive in Indiana.
Well, that's great. I really do appreciate that perspective, and it is. I think we're on the precipice of being able to thrive as a nation, and I think you're particularly seeing that in the red states where people are opening up. Some are
embracing
opening
freedom.
Yeah, some are opening up a little, but yeah, absolutely. I really do see that embrace of freedom out there, and so we really do appreciate you sharing what the leadership you've been providing in Indiana, and sharing a little bit of your slice of the state with our listeners and viewers today. We really do appreciate it. So.
Yes, well, thank you, Coach. We appreciate you being on, and I hope other political leaders out there can take some of your advice and bring it to their part of the world, and bring some of that vision, some of that thoughtfulness, the conservative principles that you have, and really to have their communities thrive as well. We really do appreciate you being on today, and look forward to having you on again in the future, and seeing what other amazing things that you're making happen.
Well, I really appreciate being with you guys. A couple of political rock stars. We're the ones out front, but you guys are the ones that get it done. And I've been called a lot of things these days, and coach isn't one of them very often. So it's good to hear that. It's good to hear that again, and I'll embrace that and take it with me any day of the week.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and on with the show. Well, that was a heck of a lot of fun. It was great to have Coach Senator Zay, on with us today, and to have that conversation about how Indiana's thriving and coming out of the pandemic, and what he's doing to expand broadband in his communities, and really to give rural America the opportunity to thrive, to revitalize America's hometowns, as you would call it, Sean.
Yeah, it was really a great conversation, and what I really enjoyed about it, we talked about rural broadband, but we also talked about the issues that really make a difference, and how his leadership heading into the pandemic has made a difference for folks that are really struggling now. So, from the foster care, the care portal, to his work on the opioid crisis, and how really having turned the tide once there, as we come out of this, I think re-implementing some of those things, and really focusing on the hope that people have, and that's really what this idea of revitalizing America's hometowns is about, is that when people see possibilities, see hope, and what's there, the turn that some communities had made in the negative direction over the last few decades can be turned. And so that's what I really enjoyed about the conversation, and thought the story about the Veterans Court, I thought that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah. It is possible. It's one of the things that we liked about President Trump, is that he saw possibilities where other people only saw constraints. And I see that Senator Zay is one of those people who sees possibilities where other people may only see constraints, is willing to take actions to empower people and to enroll people in taking on new ideas and doing something a little bit differently that maybe something was missing before, and and a new idea or a new approach or a new perspective could make the difference, and bringing that to these issues that have been issues that just don't get solved. And oftentimes it needs that new filter, that new perspective in order to kind of shift the conversation and have people actually believing that it's possible to fix these things.
Yeah.
And clearly, I would put Indiana as one of those states that's doing a lot better in the country in general across the nation. And so all of the folks out there, we're here to empower conservatives across the country to really be the most effective citizens you can be possible, but also for you to step up into your political leadership as a citizen of this country. You have every right, and really it's almost a mandate to be a political leader for your community and for your state and for your country. You don't have to get elected. You can do it as a citizen in your community and just provide leadership, but you can take on issues and you can really make a difference in your community. I would say with most of the folks that we have talked to over the progress of our shows, there are people who, it wasn't just when they started running for office that they were making a difference in the community. They were a coach. They were involved with Christian nonprofits. They were doing something else before that. They were really being leaders, and everybody has the opportunity to do that. And if you'd like to be a part of our community and to really get the freshest political trade secrets, you can text me personally at 202-918-3345. When you do that, you'll get a text back, and you'll just click that link, opt in, and after that you'll get text personally from me or from Sean. You can post questions, you can say whatever, give us your thoughts, and you'll have a real interaction with us. So thank you very much to everybody who's already a part of that. And again, that's 202-918-3345 that you can text. And then you can also go to politicaltradesecrets.com and sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets Insider, get exclusive stuff, and we'll let you know what shows are coming up. We're going to be doing a weekly email letting people know the political trade secrets that we had covered throughout the week. Of course, I want to let people know on Tuesday we're going to be having Jason Meath, our friend and great media consultant, does great television commercials, but also does great documentaries. He did the Rocky Mountain Heist about the blueprint in Colorado and how all those billionaires took over the state. A scary thing. Don't let it happen to your state. And then he also did the Bad Decisions, the Joe Biden story, which has been playing on Newsmax like all the time. And it's pretty remarkable. And he really is a terrible decision maker. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the Hollywood on Potomac book that he wrote about 10 years ago. It's got great pictures in it, but people can let us know. Go and text us. Let us know what questions you might have for Jason and how, what we can learn from Hollywood that is actually worthwhile, that we can bring into politics and actually make a difference with.
Yeah. Well, first off, that cover photo is a striking photo. I mean,
it is.
He really did pick a great.
So he got Peter Lawford. I think that's the actor, and I think he was also his brother-in-law, right?
Yeah.
So
it would make sense. It's him.
I would still go for the Elvis and Nixon picture, though. I think that's an excellent picture.
It is an excellent picture. It does make sense that Nixon probably wouldn't sell as many books as Kennedy, though. So, so look, hey, are you thinking about running for office, or what it takes to be a powerful political leader in your neck of the woods? Reach out to us. It's www.olsonstrategies.com. Email us about how we can work with you to make that difference in your community. Or if you want to work with us in our intern or fellows program, email us on any of those things, or just want to talk about what it takes to run for office. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com. And let's have that conversation today. And then we're also proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. What do? It's all of the one-on-one, human-to-human interaction that you and your campaign needs to be having with voters. Look, you can't win an election if you aren't on the ballot. Mm-hmm. So petitioning and being able to actually see your name on the ballot is so critical. So it's www.grassfire.us. It's your way to connect with people right where they are. And then they also fuel 10centtexting.com. This is your way to reach out to folks on their mobile device. Look, 82% of people open every text message they get. Now, the choice is up to you if it's impactful or if it's just another thing that they open up and forget about immediately. So if you want to have it be impactful, something positive that can make a difference in their lives, and be able to actually get information that they need to have for the upcoming election or things that are going on in your community, it's 10centtexting.com.
Excellent, and I love that there are state legislators out there who are using this here as the sessions are wrapping up to send out a text with either for a virtual town hall to hear from their constituents. As you have pointed out, 82% of people open every single text, and 90% of those people open it within 3 minutes. You can have them on your live town hall in a matter of moments. You'll have a lot of constituents who actually join you. And then also putting out the reports as to this is what I've accomplished. These are the things that we've focused on and we've been able to get done during the session. And, people are taking that as a way to have that direct communication. And then they have the ability to actually interact with people too through the texting portal. It's pretty remarkable. We are, always innovating, always going to the next level, figuring out the best ways to help people express their political leadership across the country. Well, this has been an excellent conversation. I'm going to highly recommend this to all the state legislative candidates that we talk to across the country, that they take a look at this as an example for how you can really be a leader in your state. You can take on tough issues and actually begin to turn the tide on them, make a real difference. I think Senator Zay really provided the kind of leadership and example that people can use to really make a difference. If you just got elected, this is your first legislative session, this is an excellent episode to watch to get a sense for how you can also make a difference.
Yeah, one thing I didn't mention is that he really has a zeal for service. Like it really showed through in this episode. Like and I think whether you're thinking about running for office or you've been in office for 30 years, I think seeing kind of the joy that he had when he was talking about the issues he's tackling is something that if that was present for state legislators, for members of Congress, I mean, it'd be a game changer.
It would. Yeah, things would get solved left and right if more people were bringing that. We've had enough of the old calcified, stuck in the mud folks out there, and we need some people with some vision and some inspiration. Well, Sean, thank you for everything you've done to present this episode and really the idea of revitalizing America's hometowns and your passion for that and really inspiring people to take that on as well. There are a lot of people you've talked about this with, and it really crystallizes this idea of there's a place for people to come back home. They can live their lives, have their families raised there, and get the education that they need, the economic opportunity, the healthcare, all these things that are needed to have a vibrant community and bring people back so they don't have to go to the big city and live a life that probably doesn't speak to them. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. And I can't wait to see who next we're going to have on the Revitalizing America's Hometown series. And we're also going to be doing a Reigniting American Patriotism series. So if you know anybody out there who's really doing something really that's patriotic, something that's really of service, this is, folks, citizen leaders who've just stepped up, who have decided, they're going to take this on in their community and they're going to do something. We want to highlight people like that as well. So these are a couple of series that we're beginning here now, and we'd love to hear from the audience. You can text me again, 202-918-3345. Again, 202-918-3345. You can let us know if there's anybody in your community they see is like, this is really this is a patriotic leader, somebody who stepped up, is making a difference on something in the community. So we want to highlight those people as well.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to those conversations and as we continue to have them and how it's going to make a difference out there in the landscape. So, and so thanks for everybody tuning in, watching, listening today. Really do appreciate it. And Dustin, thanks for everything you did to make this episode and series possible. I think it's really going to make a difference out there for folks whether they're community leaders, political leaders, elected officials. I do think this is going to make a difference for anyone who's really just involved in their community. It's a great episode to watch to see how you can make a difference.
Well, we're already getting messages back. People saying they really appreciated it. So that's great. Well, thank you to everybody, and have a great weekend. We're going to be back on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time with more great political trade secrets. And with that, that's our show.
Join us next time by subscribing on iTunes and get show notes and sign up for our newsletter at politicaltradesecrets.com.